Brandwashed, Tricks Companies Use to Manipulate Our Minds and Persuade Us to Buy, by Lindstrom. Picture a perfect family gliding into their dream home on a sun-soaked California street. Meet the Morgansons, a handsome dad, gorgeous mom, and 3 magnetic teenage sons. They've got the latest tech, the coolest clothes, furniture that belongs in a magazine spread. Their life looks effortless, the kind that makes you stop scrolling and think, how do they do it? When they throw a backyard barbecue, neighbors can't stop talking about their fancy new grill. When Mom Gina shows up to book club wearing a stunning piece of jewelry, everyone wants to know where she got it. When the boys cruise into school on their sleek, eco-friendly snowboards, their friends are instantly jealous. They're living the American dream, right? But here's the twist. It's all a performance. This perfect family isn't a family at all. They're actors, professional marketers, hired to live a carefully scripted life, secretly promoting brands that paid for the whole setup. This was the plot of a movie called The Joneses, and it sparked an idea in the mind of one of the world's most brilliant marketing minds, Lindstrom. He decided to turn Hollywood fiction into shocking reality. He found a real family, the actual Morgansons, and moved them into a wealthy Californian neighborhood. He filled their home with specific brands, then installed 35 hidden cameras and 25 microphones to watch what would happen. For 8 weeks, he documented how this one family, just by living their lives, could influence an entire community to buy, want, and desire the same things. The results? More mind-blowing than he ever imagined. What you're about to hear isn't just a book summary. It's an unveiling, a peek behind the curtain of the world we live in, where our choices, our desires, even our memories, aren't entirely our own. Lindstrom spent over 20 years on the front lines of the branding wars, working for the world's biggest companies. In his book, Brandwashed, he spills their secrets. By the time we're done, I promise you'll never look at a shopping mall, a commercial, or even your own childhood memories the same way again. You'll learn how marketing begins not in stores but in the womb. You'll discover how fear gets bottled and sold as cleaning products, how nostalgia is engineered to open your wallet, and how your smartphone is designed not just for communication, but to make you fall in love with it. Most importantly, you'll discover the single most powerful persuader of them all, a force so potent it makes billion-dollar advertising campaigns look like amateur hour. So settle in. Let's begin our journey into the mind of the modern consumer and uncover the tricks companies use to brandwash us all. So, what did Lindstrom's grand experiment with the Morganson family actually reveal? It proved a fundamental truth marketers have been chasing for a century. The most powerful sales pitch doesn't come from a billboard or television screen. It comes from a friend, a neighbor, someone you trust. When Gina Morganson casually mentioned how much she loved her new Pandora jewelry, her friends didn't just listen, they went out and bought it. When her husband Eric showed off his new barbecue tools, his buddies took mental notes. On average, their friends ended up buying 3 of the brands the Morgansons had subtly woven into their lives. And when everyone finally learned it was all an experiment, were they angry, betrayed? Not at all. They were fascinated. They trusted the Morgansons, taste so much they didn't care if the recommendations were scripted. This is marketing's holy grail, influence that feels like genuine advice from someone you admire. But to truly understand how we reach this point, where a neighbor's wine choice carries more weight than a Super Bowl commercial, we have to go back, way back, before you were even born. Lindstrom pulls back the curtain on a fascinating, slightly unsettling world where marketing begins in the womb. We've known for years that developing babies can hear their mother's voice. But the science goes deeper. A fetus can also hear music from the outside world. Lindstrom shares a personal story. His mother was 7 months pregnant with him during a long winter when she played bossa nova music constantly. To this day, he has an unexplainable love for that sound. It's not coincidence. Research shows that music heard in the womb can leave lasting impressions, shaping our tastes for life. Think about that for a moment. If music can shape us, what about jingles? What about theme songs to shows Mom watched every day? One study found that newborns whose mothers frequently watched the soap opera Neighbors during pregnancy showed a clear preference for its theme song. When it played, they became calmer, their heart rates decreased, they recognized it. Marketers are catching on. Lindstrom tells of a major shopping mall chain in Asia that started experimenting with this idea. They knew pregnant mothers spent lots of time shopping, so they began spraying Johnson & Johnson baby powder scent in clothing sections and cherry fragrance in food courts. They played soothing music from the era when these women were born, tapping into their own childhood memories. Their goal was to make expectant mothers comfortable and boost sales. It worked beautifully. But then something unexpected happened. A year later, letters started pouring in from new mothers. They all said the same thing. The moment they walked into the mall with their newborns, their crying babies would instantly calm down. It was a mysterious effect they experienced nowhere else. The conclusion was astonishing. The scents and sounds had infiltrated the womb. A whole generation of consumers was being subconsciously drawn to that shopping mall before they could even walk. They were literally born to shop there. And it's not just sounds and smells. It's tastes, too. Strong flavors like garlic, vanilla, or carrot can pass through the mother's amniotic fluid and be tasted by the fetus. If a mother eats lots of garlic during pregnancy, her newborn is more likely to prefer milk that smells like garlic. One study found that babies whose mothers drank carrot juice during pregnancy later showed a preference for carrot-flavored cereal. Our mothers, through their diet, are giving us our first lessons in what's good and safe to eat. Companies are quietly using this to their advantage. In the Philippines, a popular candy brand called Copico wanted to launch a new coffee that tasted just like their candies. Their strategy was brilliant and sneaky. Distributors supplied doctors with Copico candies to give away to pregnant mothers in maternity wards. When Copico coffee finally hit shelves, its success was phenomenal. Especially among children. Kids who would normally never touch coffee loved the taste. Why? Because they'd been primed for it before they were even born. From the moment we enter this world, we're not blank slates. We arrive with preloaded preferences, a quiet familiarity with certain sounds, smells, and tastes. And this is just the beginning of our lifelong journey of being brand-washed. As we grow, this programming continues. Lindstrom argues that our core brand preferences are firmly embedded by age 7. Think about your own childhood. What brands do you remember? Lego? McDonald's? Coca-Cola? Lindstrom confesses that his own childhood obsessions still influence him. He unconsciously dresses all in black, like his hero James Bond. The art in his house features the 5 basic Lego colors. These early connections are incredibly resilient. Marketers know that children under 3 represent an approximately $20 billion market. The first word recognized by most children around the world isn't mama or dada, it's McDonald's. An 18-month-old may not be able to say it, but they recognize those golden arches, those red and yellow colors. And that recognition quickly layers with emotion. The reward of a Happy Meal, the fun of a playground, the feeling of family time. By 6 months, a baby can form mental images of corporate logos. By age 3, American children can recognize an average of 100 brand logos. It's not just recognition, it's preference. In one study, preschoolers were given identical foods, hamburgers, chicken nuggets, even carrots. One set came in plain packaging, the other in McDonald's wrappers. Overwhelmingly, children reported that food in the McDonald's wrapper tasted better, even the carrots. McDonald's doesn't even sell carrots. This shows that brands do more than just sell products. They literally change our perception of them. This early programming is why companies selling distinctly adult products now target younger and younger customers. It's a strategy aimed at securing our loyalty for life. Marketers have identified something they call precocious puberty, where kids hit puberty a year earlier than they did decades ago. And puberty means products, deodorant, makeup, razors, face wash. So we see, quote, first period kits for girls as young as 11, designed with cartoon characters. We see makeup marketed to 7-year-olds, the age at which one company claims girls become adept at using a lip gloss wand. Abercrombie & Fitch even started selling padded, push-up bikini tops for 8-year-olds. The message is clear: start them young. Gillette discovered that if a boy uses their shaver just twice, there's a staggering 92% chance he'll continue using the brand for life. So they started sending welcome to adulthood packs to young men on their birthdays. Even car companies are getting in on the act. In a Porsche commercial, a young boy sits in class daydreaming about driving a Porsche 911. He walks into a dealership, asks for the salesman's business card, and says, "I'll see you in about 20 years. The tagline? There's the moment you know you want one, and for the truly afflicted, there's the decade or two that passes in between. They're planting desire's seed long before you can reach the petals." Of course, this isn't a one-way street. Kids don't just absorb marketing. They become marketing tools themselves, thanks to what marketers call pester power. One expert estimates that 75% of spontaneous food purchases in supermarkets can be traced back to a nagging child. But this influence flows both ways. It's also a hand-me-down influence. The Tropicana orange juice your parents bought becomes the only orange juice in the universe to you. When you're grown and doing your own shopping, you grab it out of pure habit. A lifelong preference is born. This is why companies create mini versions of their adult products. Baby Gap, J. Crew's Crew Cuts, even a Harley-Davidson line of onesies. Apple stores are filled with baby-friendly apps like Toddler Teasers and Infant Arcade. Sure, they keep little ones busy, but they're also stealth strategies for recruiting the next generation of customers. It's a 1-2 punch. Our earliest impressions stay with us for life, and as adults, we're drawn to products that let us relive the feeling of being young. And that brings us to one of the most powerful hidden persuaders: nostalgia. Our brains are wired to remember the past with a rosy glow. Psychologists call it rosy retrospection. We tend to recall past events as far better than they actually were. That family vacation where it rained for 3 days and everyone argued? Years later, you just remember the one sunny afternoon on the beach. This is why music from our youth always sounds better, why candy we ate as kids tasted sweeter. Our brain edits out the bad parts and amplifies the good. Marketers feast on this. Nostalgia marketing is a strategy where advertisers resurrect the sights, sounds, and feelings of previous decades to sell us things today. During the 2009 Super Bowl, commercials were a time capsule. Ads starred 70s and 80s icons like Don Rickles and Betty White. The halftime show featured Bruce Springsteen. It was calculated. During uncertain economic times, we seek comfort. And what's more comforting than brands and memories from our childhood, a time before we had grown-up worries? This is why we see retro packaging on everything, from Pepsi to Cheerios. It's why Coca-Cola revives its famous 1971, "I'd like to teach the world to sing" ad. These old commercials trigger floods of positive memories, and our brains create associations between those warm, fuzzy feelings and the product. It doesn't matter if you never actually ate Heinz beans as a kid. An ad from the 70s still triggers memories of everything else you loved from that time. Sometimes brands even invent pasts they don't have. How old do you think Bailey's Irish Cream is? With its authentic-looking bottle, you might guess 100 years. It's actually less than 40. They've manufactured a sense of history. This illusion of the past is masterfully crafted in places you'd least expect, like the modern, state-of-the-art supermarket Whole Foods. When you walk in, the first thing you see is fresh flowers. Prices are scrawled on what look like old-fashioned chalk slates. Produce is piled in distressed, grainy wooden crates. Cardboard boxes are left stacked, as if a farmer just dropped them off that morning from his flatbed truck. It's all an elaborate stage. Lindstrom points out that those stacked cardboard boxes are often just one giant, cleverly cut box designed to look like many. Those chalk slates? The writing is indelible, mass-produced in a factory. It's a strategy called Farmgate, planting a false image of a real, all-natural farm in our minds to make us feel like we're buying something authentic and pure from a simpler time. But our emotions aren't always so warm and fuzzy. Just as companies sell us comfort from the past, they also sell us fear of the future. Fear is one of the most potent and primal human emotions, and it's a marketer's golden ticket. Think about the global panic over swine flu and SARS. For doctors and health officials, it was a nightmare. For companies selling hand sanitizer? A golden opportunity. Sales of Purell and Clorox wipes skyrocketed. We were driven into antibacterial mania, despite the fact that these gels do little to prevent airborne viruses. But marketers worked hard to make us believe their product was the only way to stay safe. Kleenex rolled out antiviral tissues. Online retailers sold swine flu protection kits, filled with face masks and hand sanitizer, designed to look medical and clinical, even though they weren't endorsed by any health organization. Kellogg's even introduced a new version of Rice Krispies that they claim so bogus they were later forced to pull it. Fear is a powerful persuader because it bypasses our rational brain. When we're scared, we don't think clearly, we just react. And marketers are masters at triggering that reaction to sell everything from insurance to toothpaste. In one vintage ad for a thermos, the tagline read, "A fly in the milk may mean a baby in the grave." Today, tactics are more subtle, but the principle's the same. One of the most effective fear tactics is what Lindstrom calls the feared self. We all have a version of our future self we want to avoid. The out-of-shape self, the lonely self, the unsuccessful self. Do we go to the gym because we want to be healthy? Or because we're scared of getting flabby? Companies activate insecurities we didn't even know we had. A Dove campaign for deodorant claimed its new formula would make our underarms not just odor-free but, quote, prettier, planting the subconscious fear that our armpits might be hideous. This fear is often mixed with a healthy dose of guilt, especially for new mothers. The world suddenly becomes a giant death trap for their fragile new baby. This is why the market for baby-proofing products is huge. Cabinet locks, safety gates, video baby monitors. Marketers play on the inherent fear that if you don't buy all this stuff, you're not a good enough mother. Then there's the food industry's brilliant ruse, known as the finishing touch. Most parents feel guilty about serving prepackaged meals. It feels like you don't care. So food marketers came up with a solution. Instead of selling a frozen pizza, they sell you raw dough, a jar of sauce, and a bag of cheese. You go home, assemble it yourself, and voila, you feel like you've cooked a homemade meal. It's the genius behind Hamburger Helper and Duncan Hines brownie mix. They sell us products that look finished, but require a little effort on our part, just enough to absolve our guilt. But what if a product could promise more than just safety or a clear conscience? What if it could promise happiness, enlightenment, hope in a jar? This brings us to the world of miracle products. Take the goji berry, a shriveled red fruit from the Himalayas, sold in juices for up to $50 a bottle. Marketers claim it can cure everything from depression to cancer, often citing an ancient legend of a man who ate goji berries every day and lived to be 252 years old. Of course, the fine print admits these claims haven't been evaluated by the FDA. The science is flimsy at best. So why do we buy it? Because of something Lindstrom calls somatic markers. Our brains form mental shortcuts that link physical cues to emotional states. The goji berry is marketed with images of the Himalayas, snow-dusted mountains, and Tibetan temples. When we see these images, our brains don't think about fruit juice. They think about Buddhism, purity, simplicity, wisdom, and enlightenment. We aren't buying a drink. We're buying a piece of that spiritual world. The packaging for one brand pictures Mount Everest ascending into clouds. Another uses the tagline, "Wisdom can be obtained within." Never mind that the juice is bottled in a factory in Phoenix, Arizona. They're selling us a story, an idea. They're selling us hope. The same strategy works for acai berries from the Brazilian Amazon and pomegranate juice from Palm Wonderful, with its bottle shaped like an idealized female form and a heart in place of the O in its logo. These products are often promoted with buzzwords like natural and organic, terms that are frequently unregulated and misleading. Natural potato chips are still potato chips. Multigrain bread just means more than one type of grain is used. And the word energy on a food label? It's just a clever way of saying calories. This selling of hope extends to the beauty industry. Face creams with names like Miracle Worker and ingredients like stem cells from a rare Swiss apple promise to turn back the clock. The claims are often medically impossible, but that doesn't matter. Charles Revson, the founder of Revlon, famously said, "In the factory, we make cosmetics. In the drugstore, we sell hope." Hope is the most powerful product of all. It's the gym membership we buy to get the body we've always wanted. It's the expensive outfit we buy for an event we haven't been invited to yet. It's the camping gear we buy to feel closer to nature, even if we never leave the city. These products represent an imagined future, a world we hope to one day live in, and we're willing to pay a premium for that dream. Now, if tapping into our past with nostalgia and our future with fear and hope isn't enough, marketers have another, even more visceral tool: addiction. Not just emotional attachment, but real, biological addiction. Lindstrom takes us into the dark art of engineering desire. He worked with a major beverage company whose sales were declining. He discovered the secret ingredient they were missing: the element of craving. Cravings aren't random. They're triggered by physical and emotional cues. For soda, one of the most powerful triggers is the image of condensation, or sweat, on the side of a cold glass or can. It signals to our subconscious that the drink is ice cold and refreshing. This company had removed sweat drops from their ads because they looked messy. It was a fatal mistake. Lindstrom went further. He found that sound is also an incredibly powerful trigger. The crackle and fizz of a drink being poured over ice, the snap of a can being opened. For his client, he helped create a unique snap sound, slightly different from competitors. They incorporated this sound into all their advertising, TV, radio, even at sponsored concerts. The result? An instant spike in sales whenever the sound played. People would suddenly crave that specific drink, without the faintest idea why. This is psychological manipulation, but sometimes it's even more direct. Companies deliberately spike recipes with habit-forming substances to make products physically addictive. High-fat, high-calorie foods can affect the brain in ways nearly identical to cocaine and heroin. They trigger dopamine release, the feel-good neurotransmitter. The more you eat, the more you need to get that same rush. It's why you can't eat just one potato chip. And it's not just junk food. Red Bull contains a staggering 27 grams of sugar, plus a heavy dose of caffeine. This combination creates a cycle of rush and crash that keeps you coming back for more. Lindstrom even reveals that something as innocent as lip balm can be designed to be addictive. Many brands contain ingredients like phenol, which can actually dry out your lips, creating a vicious cycle where the more you use, the more you need to use. This addiction model has even been weaponized in online gaming. Games like Farmville and Mafia Wars are designed to be, quote, dopamine delivery systems. Every time you complete a mission, harvest a crop, or buy a virtual item, your brain gets a small hit of dopamine. It keeps you coming back, endlessly pursuing that next reward. Marketers have realized this can do more than just get you hooked on games. It can actually rewire your brain to become addicted to the act of shopping and buying itself. Social, flash shopping sites like Gilt and Rue La La turn shopping into a game with a ticking clock, a prize, and the thrill of the hunt. Win or lose, our brains just want to keep playing. But perhaps the most startling discovery Lindstrom made has to do with our most fundamental human drive: sex. For his book, he conducted a fascinating brain imaging study. He wanted to understand why brands like Abercrombie and Fitch and Calvin Klein use images of scantily clad muscular men to sell men's clothing to heterosexual men. On the surface, it doesn't make sense. When he showed these ads to a group of heterosexual men while scanning their brains, he found something remarkable. Their brains showed activity in the region associated with sexual attraction, but also in the area involved in deception, the part that lights up when we're trying to convince ourselves of something that isn't quite true. In short, they were attracted to the images, but their brains were working hard to deny it. This complex dance of desire, aspiration, and identity is the playground for marketers. The legendary Axe body spray campaign was built on this insight. After surveying 12,000 men about their deepest sexual fantasies, Unilever, the company behind Axe, discovered a universal male truth. The ultimate fantasy isn't just to be found irresistible by one attractive woman, but by several. The entire campaign was built around this idea. In one ad, a scrawny young man sprays on Axe, and an army of bikini-clad women storms the beach to surround him. The message was simple and brutally effective. Use Axe. Get attention. The brand became a global phenomenon. But the most sophisticated marketing today doesn't just sell us a product. It sells us a person. It sells us celebrity. We're a culture obsessed with fame. Celebrities are our modern royalty. They live lives of glamour and fantasy, seemingly untouched by our everyday troubles. And advertisers pay them enormous sums to sell us everything from cars to perfume. We may tell ourselves we aren't influenced by these endorsements, but the data doesn't lie. Celebrity marketing works, often on a subconscious level. Our brains are hardwired to respond positively to famous faces. Seeing a celebrity endorse a product not only makes the message feel more authentic, but it creates a psychological process called transference. We subconsciously transplant our feelings about that celebrity, their beauty, their success, their coolness, onto the product. When we wear the makeup Scarlett Johansson wears, we feel a little more sultry. When we eat the soup endorsed by an NFL quarterback, we feel a little stronger. We aren't just buying a product, we're buying a piece of that celebrity's life. We're buying a piece of the dream. This is why Vitamin Water gave celebrities like 50 Cent shares in the company. It gave them financial incentive to be candidly photographed, sipping the drink, making the endorsement feel authentic, and creating a sales explosion. This obsession with fame has created a world where everything can be branded, including people. Pop stars like Madonna and David Bowie have masterfully rebranded themselves over and over, changing their look, their sound, and their persona with each new album, just like a corporation launching a new product line. So we've seen how companies target us from the womb, manipulate our emotions, engineer our addictions, and use our deepest desires for sex and status to sell us products. But all these tactics pale in comparison to the single most invasive and rapidly growing force in modern marketing: data mining. Welcome to the end of privacy. Every time you swipe a loyalty card, use a credit card, do a Google search, or click like on Facebook, you're leaving a digital footprint. And an entire industry, worth over $100 billion, exists to track, analyze, and sell that information. Loyalty cards aren't about rewarding you. They're tools for data collection. The store knows what you buy, when you buy it, and how much you spend. This data feeds into complex algorithms that create incredibly detailed profiles of who you are. Are you a time-pressed meat eater or a back-to-nature shopper? They know. And they use this information to target you with offers so personalized, so uncannily timed, they're almost impossible to resist. Walmart's database is many times larger than the federal government's. They once analyzed purchasing data before a hurricane and discovered the top-selling items weren't flashlights or batteries. It was beer and strawberry Pop-Tarts. So as the storm approached, they rushed trucks full of beer and Pop-Tarts to threatened areas. Your credit card company knows even more. They know where you shop, what you buy, and they use this data to predict your financial stability. If you suddenly start using your card at a pawn shop or a marriage counselor, they might lower your credit limit. Even your smartphone is a spy. Many free apps secretly pull sensitive data, your contacts, your text messages, your location, and ship it off to advertisers, and your social media profiles are gold mines. Facebook allows advertisers to target you based on your age, location, interests, and even sexual orientation, information that can be gleaned even if your profile is set to private. We're living in what Lindstrom calls a, quote, post-privacy society. We've lost track of who's tracking us and what they're doing with our information. And this brings us full circle, back to the Morgensons. In this hyper-connected world, where we're bombarded with thousands of marketing messages daily, our brains have learned to tune most of them out. We've become skeptical of traditional advertising. We know we're being sold to. But the one message we don't filter, the one voice we still trust, is the voice of a peer. Lindstrom's brain imaging studies confirmed this. When we see a traditional ad, the rational, executive parts of our brain are active. We're on guard. But when we receive a word-of-mouth recommendation from a friend, those regions shut down. Instead, the parts of our brain responsible for social emotions, empathy, trust, and even love light up. We don't just hear the recommendation, we feel it. It gets recorded on multiple tracks in our brain, making it far more memorable and powerful than any commercial. This is why the Morgenson experiment was so successful. Their influence wasn't just marketing, it was social contagion. And in our modern world, where one person's recommendation can be broadcast to thousands of friends on Facebook or Twitter with a single click, this power is amplified exponentially. Companies know this, and they're now harnessing this power, hiring armies of brand ambassadors and influencers, creating fake grassroots campaigns, and planting families, just like the Morgensons, in communities everywhere. The most powerful, hidden persuader of them all isn't a corporation, it's us. So what do we do with all this? It's easy to feel a little paranoid after peeling back the layers of Brandwashed. It feels like we're living in a world designed by master puppeteers, where our desires aren't our own, and our choices are simply echoes of scripts written in corporate boardrooms. And in some ways, that's true. Martin Lindstrom has given us a map of the matrix, he's shown us the code. But his goal isn't to make us cynical, it's to make us conscious. The most powerful lesson in this book isn't that we're being manipulated, but how we're being manipulated. And with that knowledge comes power, the power of awareness. The next time you feel a sudden, inexplicable craving for a particular brand of soda, you can pause and ask yourself, did I just see an ad? Did I hear a sound? Was there a trigger? The next time you find yourself reaching for a product simply because it's on the bestseller list, you can stop and ask, do I actually want this? Or do I just want what everyone else has? Lindstrom's own story is telling. He, a master marketer, decided to go on a brand detox, vowing to buy no new brands for an entire year. He lasted 6 months. His relapse was triggered by a lost suitcase, forcing him to buy a cheap, I Love Cyprus t-shirt. But that one small crack in his resolve opened the floodgates. He realized that even he, the ultimate insider, was brandwashed. He concludes that the purpose isn't to stop buying. That's nearly impossible in our world. The purpose is to make smarter, more informed decisions about what we buy and why. For a young person standing on the cusp of adulthood, this is perhaps one of the most important lessons you can learn. You're about to enter a world that will spend billions of dollars trying to tell you who you are, what you should want, and how you can buy your way to happiness. This book is a shield. It's a field guide to navigating that world with your eyes wide open. So here are a few simple actions you can take, starting today. First, practice the pause. Before you make a purchase, especially an impulse one, take a 5-second pause. Ask yourself, why am I buying this? Is it a genuine need or want? Or is it a response to an external trigger? Is it fear, nostalgia, or peer pressure? Just the act of asking the question can break the spell. Second, curate your influences. You now know that people around you are your biggest influencers. Be mindful of that. Who do you follow online? Who do you look to for advice? Make conscious choices about the voices you let into your life. And remember that you too are an influencer. The brands you champion, the products you recommend, they have a ripple effect. And finally, Recognize that the most valuable things in life can't be bought. Companies can sell us hope in a jar, but they can't sell us true hope. They can sell us the illusion of community, but they can't sell us real connection. They can sell us products that promise happiness, but they can't sell us genuine joy. Understanding the difference is the ultimate act of resistance against being brandwashed. That was a summary of Brandwashed by Martin Lindstrom. We've certainly covered a lot of ground today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a postcard of the Grand Canyon. You can see the picture, but you can't feel the scale, the awe, the wind on your face. The real magic of this book is in the details, the stories, and the quiet moments of reflection it provokes. This summary is a map to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or made you see the world just a little differently, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning facts. It's about gaining a new lens through which to see your own life and the world around you. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.